It's convention and expo season. Well, kind of. Today I'm going to give you my top 10 tips for going to Reptile Expos that hopefully will save you a little bit of money. And we're starting right now. Welcome to the Exotic Pet Collective. My name is Richard, and this is the first official video on this second channel. You may know me from my main channel, the Tarantula Collective, that's focused pretty much just on tarantulas. On this channel, I'll be talking about all the exotic pets in my collection. Snakes, scorpions, geckos, and other reptiles and invertebrates. Before making this video, I checked up on this channel and we're already over 1,000 subscribers. So a huge shout out and thanks to all the subscribers that believed in this channel before I even uploaded the first real video. You all are awesome. Thank you. Now, I haven't been able to hit a Reptile Expo since like October of last year. I had plans on going to the NARBC in March and then again in June, but they had to keep canceling it. But I've been getting a lot of emails lately and seeing a lot of people post online hitting different Reptile Expos across the country. So it seems like a great time to make this video. So today I'm going to be counting down the top 10 tips that you can use to save a little bit of money if you do end up going to a reptile convention or expo. So hopefully you'll find some helpful information here. So tip number 10 is to get there early. The bigger the expo, the earlier you should arrive. The lines for some of the larger expos can start getting pretty long, 1 or even 2 hours before they open. And the parking lot's gonna fill up very quickly. So if you just show up as soon as the doors open, you're gonna have a long hike from the back of the parking lot and then could be standing in line for hours just to get inside. With all the social distancing measures that are in place, that's even more likely now. Even for the smaller shows. They're only allowing so many people in the door at a time, and the rest of us are forced to wait outside. So show up early, get in line early, and get through the expo as quick as you can. Now, a lot of the larger reptile expos do have a VIP package where you can pay a little bit more and go to the expo the evening before or even get in an hour or two early. This is a very good idea if you're looking for a very rare or specific species that could potentially sell out very quickly. And there's a lot fewer people that will be in the expo during those VIP hours. So if you have an aversion to large crowds, it's a perfect way to get what you need, see the show without having to worry about dealing with a lot of people. Now, if you wait to the end of the day or the end of the expo, the crowds definitely will be thinner, but there's a higher possibility that the items or the species that you were looking to buy will be sold out and no longer available. If you showed up at the beginning of the expo and picked up everything you needed at a great price, consider going back at the very end of the expo. Sometimes vendors are willing to sell things at amazing discounts at the end of the show because they don't want to have to pack it up and haul it all the way back home. This isn't every dealer at every expo, but there is a good possibility you might be able to find some amazing last minute deals if you come back right at the very end. Number 9 may seem like an obvious tip, but it is still very important and something a lot of people seem to overlook. And that is to do your research beforehand. You really need to know what you're getting yourself into before buying a new species, whether that's a snake or a tarantula or any other type of reptile, amphibian, or invert. Before you hand over your money and take this new animal home, make sure to do your research and know exactly what the husbandry requirements for that species is going to be. Any special heating or lighting requirements that it may have, how long it will live, how large it will get. Don't rely solely on the person selling you the animal to tell you exactly how to take care of it. A lot of breeders and dealers really know their stuff and will give you a lot of helpful insight into the species. But some are just hired salesmen trying to push products. And if it's a crowded and busy expo, even the best dealers and breeders may be too busy to hold your hand and walk you through everything you need to know about a particular species. These booths can be very expensive to rent. Add on top of that the process of packing up and hauling all of these different products and species, setting it up, paying for hotel rooms and meals while you're there. It can be a very expensive endeavor, and they need to sell as much as they can to cover just the cost, let alone make a profit. So they might not be able to tell you everything you need to know beforehand, and a responsible pet owner would do the research before buying the species. Try to avoid buying on impulse, and expecting the dealer or breeder to walk you through the entire care and husbandry of that species right there in the moment at the peak of an expo when they're very busy is not a good idea. Now this next tip kind of seems to fly in the face of the last tip. Even though you can't expect that dealer to tell you everything about their husbandry, it is still important to ask some questions. If it only has a common name for that species on the table, ask what the scientific name is. Know exactly which species that you're buying. Ask if it's captive bred or wild caught. If the person selling the species doesn't know the exact scientific name, or they don't know if it was bred captively or caught in the wild, be very careful and consider passing on that deal. When it comes to inverts, especially tarantulas, if they don't know if it's captive bred or wild caught, I always just assume that it's wild caught, and usually will pass on those deals. A lot of inverts could carry mites, have nematodes, you don't know how old it is, they probably don't know what sex it is, and it could cause you a lot of problems further on down the line. So stick with dealers and breeders that know their stuff, that can tell you what the scientific name is. If it was captive bred or wild caught, when it was bred, how old it is, how large it's going to get, and avoid buying species from dealers that specialize in one species but have some completely unrelated species on the end of their table that they're just trying to get rid of. Now this tip could potentially save you a lot of money, and that is to price ahead of time. If you know exactly what enclosures or items or species that you're looking for ahead of time, do a little bit of research. Find out what your local pet shops are selling them for, what different websites online are asking. Sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment and you're at an expo, you expect all the prices to be amazing deals. And in most cases they are, but occasionally people will be selling enclosures for full retail price, sometimes even a little bit more. And if you're looking at live species, make sure you take into consideration the shipping cost of buying from someone online. You may find a website online that's selling a snake or tarantula for $100 and they're asking $125 at the expo. What you need to take into consideration though is it's going to cost you $50 to have that species sent overnight to you. So even though it may appear that you're paying $25 more for this species in an expo compared to what they're selling it for online, you're actually going to be getting it for about $25 less. So know ahead of time what the normal cost for that species or enclosure or lights or whatever it is, what it would normally cost, so when you're at the expo, you just aren't assuming you're getting the best deal. Price check everything if you can. Number 6 is another money-saving tip, and that is bundle for deals. Now this won't work at every booth and it won't work every time. Some brick and mortar pet stores that just move some of their stock to the expo and have employees working there selling their items are not going to be able to give you any kind of deals or sell anything below the sticker price. But if you shop from mom and pop booths or buy from breeders that don't have a brick and mortar store, they may be willing to negotiate their prices a little bit, especially if you're buying multiple items from them. It never hurts to ask for a deal. If you're buying like 3 or 4 different things and spending like $450, $500, see if they'll give you 10% off. At the worst, all they could say is no, but they may accept your offer or negotiate for a price somewhere in between. No matter the outcome, a closed mouth never gets fed, and they may be more apt to work out some kind of deal if you're buying multiple items from them at once. So keep that in mind. Number 5 is to be prepared. If you plan ahead and already know which species you'll be picking up, go ahead and set up their enclosure before you even leave home if possible. I like to set up my enclosures for slings, juveniles, or adult tarantulas, or if I'm planning on getting a snake, go ahead and have that enclosure completely set up and ready to go. That way I know beforehand what items that I may need for that enclosure that I'm missing. Maybe the heat lamp that I was going to use for the snake isn't working and I need to pick up extra light bulbs. Or I can't find the heat pad I thought I had stored somewhere. That way I go into the expo not only knowing what species I want, but what additional husbandry items that I may need to pick up as well. And it makes rehousing the species when you get home so much easier. It will make unpacking and rehousing so much less stressful for you as well as your new pet. Tip number 4 is to pace yourself. Some expos are huge and can take hours to walk through. Others are very small and you can see all the booths within an hour or less. In either case, take your time. Visit each table, find the species and items that you're looking for, and make a note of what they're charging. Sometimes different vendors will have the same items at drastically different prices. So find the best deals to save some money. Make notes of what you found and where so you can double back and pick those items up. The only time that's not the best idea is if you're looking for a rare species or item and they only have 1 or 2 available. You may want to grab that item as soon as you can so nobody else comes behind you and picks it up. Now this tip is very important, and it's also the tip I have the hardest time following myself. So number 3 is stick to a budget. It can be very tempting to blow all of your cash at an expo. You can tell yourself, this is a really good deal, and I won't be at an expo for months or maybe even a year. It's your only chance to pick up this species or to get this awesome new enclosure. And some of that may be true, but any enjoyment or excitement that you may get in the moment, dumping all your cash to buy this particular pet or item, can quickly be erased in the following days or weeks when you're broke or stressed out about money. Remember that any animal you buy is probably going to come with additional costs that you might not be thinking about or considering in the moment, like enclosures, feeders, lights, decorations, substrates. The list goes on. Figure out exactly how much you can comfortably spend at an expo and stick to that amount. What I like to do is figure out that amount and then have like a backup fund, maybe an extra $100 or something that I squirrel away, pretend like I forgot about it. That way I have a little bit of extra funds set aside and hopefully kind of out of mind in the case that something spectacular is available. Tip number 2 kind of goes hand in hand with the last tip, and that is to have a plan. Don't fall victim to impulse buying. Know ahead of time exactly what you're looking for. Whether it's a specific species or enclosure or feeders, whatever it might be, there's an overwhelming amount of choices at an expo, and it can be very easy to get overwhelmed and distracted. Of course, you may find species you didn't even know existed, or enclosures you didn't even realize were being sold. But for the most part, you should have a generalized idea of exactly what you're looking for. Usually, you've paid admission to get into these expos. So you want to make sure that you're getting a good deal and you don't leave empty-handed, or worse, you leave with things you didn't even need or pets you weren't even really looking for. So make a list and stick to it. And the number 1 tip for going to reptile expos is cash is king. Yeah, a lot of booths will take credit card or PayPal. Some even accept cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. But one thing to keep in mind is all those different payment methods come with additional transaction fees. A lot of times, being the buyer, we don't take that into consideration. Using your credit or debit card or sending money through PayPal usually comes with a 1.5% to 3% surcharge for the person selling the item. So if you're paying $100 for a reptile and you use your debit card, the person selling you that in actuality is losing anywhere from $1.50 to as much as $5 just on transaction fees. Cash is easy. It has no transaction fees, has no paper trail. Most sellers are a lot more willing to give you discounts or haggle with price if you're paying with cash. So yes, credit and debit cards are much more convenient, but take the time to hit an ATM before showing up at the expo. Don't wait till you're at the expo, because those ATMs usually have crazy service fees. So stick to your budget, plan ahead, and bring cash. Going to reptile expos is a lot of fun, and if you've never done it, I highly suggest it. There's always access to great species and items that you don't have locally. I love picking up enclosures at these expos because the local pet shops around me don't carry most of those items, and it's real hard to find anybody that will ship large enclosures. But as I've mentioned, it can be overwhelming with the amount of choices and can be very tempting to spend way more money than you plan on. But if you follow these tips, I think you'll get the best deals and will avoid overspending. Well, if you found some value to this video, please make sure you hit that like button. If you want to see some footage from the North American Reptile Breeders Conference, just check out this playlist right here. And if you want to see a tour of my entire collection, just check out this video right here. Well, thanks for watching the first official video. Subscribe if you want to see more, and thanks for being part of the collective.